everyone, it is Jillian here from Connections Early Years Family Center, and it is time for our Friday outdoor learning video. As you can tell, we are not in our good friend's garden. We're going to start our video today in my own backyard, and then we're going to move into some woodlands. But today we're going to be talking all about birds in the winter. So just because there's no snow, which I am very sad about, it doesn't mean that winter changes aren't still happening for us and for other species around us. For us, some of those winter changes include not getting as much sunlight and feeling maybe a little vitamin D deficient. Maybe we're a little more tired than usual. Maybe our moods are a little more negative because we're not getting that sunlight that our bodies need. Similarly, for birds, they have some winter changes too, and that includes having to find a way to stay warm and stay fed even during these coldest months of the year. So for today's video, we are going to be looking at some different ways that birds manage to stay warm and stay healthy during the winter, as well as looking at some fun ways that we can help them during this time of year and some cool things that we can observe about birds. So with that said, let's get started. So we're in the woods and we are looking for some birds. Don't hold your breath though, it is quite hard to get them on camera sometimes. Because as you've probably noticed, birds are really quick and amazing at making themselves scarce when people get too close. But one of the great things about going for a walk during the winter, aside from the fact of always enjoying the fresh air and the sunshine if possible, is that because the trees are bare, it's actually a great time of year to look for birds because there's no leaves to obscure them or to let them hide in the trees. They're easy to see because there's nothing really for them to hide behind. It's also a good time of year to look for birds though, because one way that some birds stay warm in the winter is they puff up their feathers and actually make themselves bigger than they are, say during the summer or the spring when it's not as cold out. So you might notice this with some species such as cardinals, who A, are great to spot on a regular day because they're such a beautiful red, but B, are even better to spot in the winter because they don't migrate south. They stay where they are. They keep their territory the way they do all year round, but they definitely puff up their feathers and they get a little bit rounder, almost like a beach ball. So it's even easier to spot them because they look that little bit bigger than they do during the spring or the summer. So get outside, look for them in the woods, and when you're looking for that flash of red, it might be a little bit easier to look for it among the trees with no leaves. Another bird that doesn't migrate in the winter is a sparrow, which I'm sure is a bird that you guys have all seen. They're very common in Windsor. You especially see them anywhere where there might be crumbs or anything like that lying around that they love to eat. So sparrows don't migrate the way that other birds do. Some birds do prefer to go south and look for warm weather to wait out the winter, but a sparrow stays here in the same territory all year round, and they look for places like this. These places with these low clumps of bushes where they can take shelter from the cold and huddle together in groups as they puff themselves up to stay warm. So if you're looking for a good place to find sparrows, especially on a great sunny day like today, look for these places that are really warm and cozy, and you'll likely find a couple of them huddling in here, just like there was before I got too close and they all flew away. One place that you might find a lot of birds in the winter when you're going for your walks are places like this that have unfrozen fresh water, and that's because birds still need fresh water through the winter like all living things. So it's hard for them to find that sometimes where it's fresh water that's not frozen because they can't drink the ice. They need water that's unfrozen to have something to drink through the winter. So a great place to look for them is definitely ponds, but even if you have a bird bath at home that you can change the water in and out of, especially keeping it clean, so no bacteria growing there, nothing that's going to make the birds sick, but also keeping it fresh and unfrozen to always give them access to that drinking water is a really great way to attract birds to your own home as well. Another good bird to see in the winter are woodpeckers, because again, without all the foliage in the trees, it is much easier to spot them when you hear their distinctive tap, 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 just like this little guy here.
I think they both had causes, but they weren't complainers.
So one of the birds that we just saw picking up some seeds from on top of those rocks is a chickadee. So these are the ones that are quite small. They have the little black cap, and they are quite small and fast. So an interesting thing about the chickadee is that because they're such a small bird, they can't put on a lot of weight for the winter. It wouldn't affect how they fly, and it would affect how they're able to move. So what they do is they're really good at shivering. So they shiver and sort of vibrate their bones to make them really keep warm during the winter, which is a very unique way to survive. It's a very cool fact. One thing that might happen while you're out looking for birds is you might get so distracted and so engaged looking for those birds that you don't even notice another animal sneak up behind you, which is exactly what happened with that white-tailed deer there. So keep in mind when you're out looking for birds in the winter, you might be lucky enough to see some other animals like deer, which are also easier to spot this time of year because just like birds, they're really looking for their sources of food. One type of bird that you're not likely to see here in the woods on our little bird walk are those birds that like to be near the water. So two examples of this are Canada geese, which we did see on our river walk last week, but again, they also have certain adaptations that keep them warm for winter, such as growing some new insulation feathers, and again, just trying to eat as much as they can to stay insulated when it is cold out. And then another type of bird that has a very interesting way of staying warm in the winter are seagulls. You might see a seagull standing out on the ice and you wonder, how are they not freezing with their feet right on the ice? And some birds have the adaptation where they can store their heat really close to their core and kind of let their limbs and their more extremities get cold, but keeping all of their heat around their internal organs. So that's a really cool way of keeping warm in the winter, even if it's not something that we get to see when looking for them out here in the woods. So that was it for our little bird walk through the woods today. I hope you saw some really neat birds that you're then interested to go out and look for yourselves. A couple notes though before we finish up for today. There were some videos of birds here eating seeds that people had left out for them in the woods. It's very important that we don't feed anything to birds that is not a natural bird food. So sometimes if you're walking through the woods, you might see people have left out bread or cereal or other grains. It's very important that we're not feeding these people foods to birds because they aren't humans. They can't eat these foods. Birds need to eat seeds and other natural foods that are going to give them the nutrients they need to survive the winter. Also, just the nutrients they need to live healthily every day throughout the year. So whenever you're doing this, it is important that you're not feeding those birds these foods that are going to harm them. We never want to harm nature, we just want to appreciate it. So what's one way that we can do that while still enjoying birds in our daily lives? One thing that we have real quick here is a little homemade bird feeder. So this is containing some sunflower seeds and peanuts, natural foods for birds that could be found in their natural environments. And all we did was take a plastic bottle, cut out a section for the birds to sit on, and then leave it out for the birds and the squirrels to peck at. Again, keeping in mind that anytime we are appreciating nature, we only want to appreciate it. We don't want to be disrupting it. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you check out our In the Garden live stream that we had aired just the previous week ago to see what other types of natural bird feeders you can make in your own garden to attract some nearby birds for you and your family to see. So with that said, thank you again for watching, and thank you for connecting with us. We'll see you next week.